Okay, let's start. This is lecture 15 for incident response technology class. And I will finish the Reconnaissance 2 slides. I have made some update to the slides. So if you have downloaded before, just download and download the slides again. Reconnaissance 2. Yeah, Reconnaissance 1 basically means using Google engine to do search. Reconnaissance 2, we mainly introduce some software tools that in Kali Linux that you can do information gathering. Yeah, I updated Reconnaissance 2 slides, not the first one. I mainly add one software tool is this one, social. Basically, this set is a social engineering toolkit. So I will introduce one function in this social engineering toolkit, which is web cloning. So web cloning, I will introduce two software tools. One is httrack, and another is set social engineering toolkit. Both can do web cloning, and maybe this one is will contain web cloning and also data gathering together. So it's a little bit more comprehensive. So last class, before we do the midterm exam, so last Monday we introduced the Netcraft, basically using some online website to do information gathering. So not only Netcraft, some other websites they can also do this information gathering on potential web server. Of course, the disadvantage is that it only can get very basic information of web servers. Why this one does not show up? The computer screen does not show up. Let me adjust. So this one. So it showed up a moment ago, right? Yeah. Computer, laptop. Why my computer cannot detect a second screen? Yeah, I tried.
Having a hard time hearing. Is this the issue? Oh.
Hello?
Disregard.
Well, both of you have computer, why not connect with Zoom just to finish this class? I don't know what's wrong. It probably it's my computer. It cannot detect the second screen. Or is this HDMI cord things. Okay. Can you connect to the web course to this Zoom link? Sorry about that. I don't know what's wrong. I can ask them after the class. Okay. Okay. So we last time we introduced this one. So we will move on to the first tools, which is HT track. HT track is you can think that it's an offline website setup tools, and this is where HT track is in Kali Linux. If it's not installed, because in some version of Kali Linux, it's not installed by default, but it is in the App Store. So you can use this apt-get install to install this one. So if you go to Kali Linux, of course, you need to log in by root account. Otherwise, installation may have some problem. HT track. On my computer, it just shows that it's not installed. Then do you want to install it? If you click yes, then it just means it will run this apt-get install command by itself. So, yes, then it will download from the App Store and uninstall it. On Windows, you can install this graphic user interface one. Basically, it's the same program. It's just add a very simple graphic user interface. But the command option is very similar. So you can go here to download to your Windows machine to do this. And here is a tutorial. Let me show. Download a website for offline access. So it has some basic introduction, and then you can follow it, because this one introduced this Windows version HT track. And HT track, in principle, it can be very fast to download a web server. A web server doesn't have that much of file to download. But it turned out that in Kali Linux, if you want HT track, it took very long time to clone a website. I think that's my guess. My guess is that the HT track program in Kali Linux, it has been deliberately programmed to be slow in download. They don't want this tool to be used by attacker, so they just want to demonstrate the concept. So if you use this tool, don't try to clone a big website. It could take very long. to do that. So in Kali Linux, and this is a command line way, and we can show it. So when you run it, let me run it on my Kali Linux. XT track. You can enter a project name. Project name, you can think that basically HT track will create a folder. The folder name will be the project name. So, and base path, basically, once it copied the website content, where do you want to put it? The base path right now by default is a root website. So I will not change, just the return. Enter URL. Basically, this is a target website that you want to clone. Suppose I just clone my own homepage. This is my homepage. And for example, I want to clone this small one. Research. This one. Because this is very simple page, contains several links, and each link has some additional page. So I will just do this. So you can enter multiple URL. Here I just enter one URL, and you want to mirror the website, with wizard. I will just use a simple option, the option 1. Mirror website proxy. Do you want to use proxy to download? Because if you want to download a large website, you don't want to download from your own computer. If you are a attacker, you want to use a proxy to download. In this way, security defender don't know which IP address actually do this downloading. So we will do not use proxy. Wildcard, I just use a default. See additional option, no additional option. So this is actual command line for the HT track to run these options. So this step-by-step way is try to make it easier for a user to use these software tools. But it also have this one command line option that you can use. So ready to launch the mirror, yes. Then it will start to mirror the website. And if you open another tab, you go to, because right now I'm in the root, so I go to this folder. You can see that this CIS6395 was created. That's a project name. It will create that folder. And you can see that it starts to downloading everything here. Well, these are created by default. So if you open this index, it's just to show the HT track its own information. The actual website you download will be in this folder. So remember, this is URL. So basically, it will use a URL as a folder name. And now this is even though I put in the URL as this research.htm, it basically treats the directory as where you want to download. So it doesn't matter what the last HTML page name is. So basically, Delta CISO. That's why in here, this is Delta CISO, because in folder, it cannot use Delta as the character in folder. So it uses subscript. And you can see these are all the folders under my my home page. And this download could take a longer time. So let me open one page. So this one has been finished, this research.html. You can see that this is this research.html that I have just downloaded. And you can see this, remember this URL is on the local computer. So this image, this UCF logo image, and this background mountain, they have already been downloaded by this httrack. That's why everything is here. And right now, all these they haven't finished yet. All these like this is the now convenience index. So this folder has not been finished because you can see these are the previous. For example, if I go to this Dns convenience, this is one of my previous research projects. Right now, this index is still in this temp format, so it's still not finished yet. And this in the httrack is just doing very slowly. So that's one problem for using httrack because it was programmed to be slow. I don't know about the Windows version. Whether this Windows version can download faster or also slow. I haven't tried this before, but you can try it by yourself if you don't want to use Kali Linux. Okay, so that is web cloning, and web cloning is useful for attacker because remember in phishing email is where attacker try to lure some users to click attacker's website. And attacker make a website, just a clone like Facebook, Bank of America, like some credit card companies web server. So it looks exactly the same as the official web server. If the user is not knowledgeable enough, not aware that, they will input their username password. So the mirror a website, clone a website has that usage for attacker. So that's why there is another software tool, which is this SET. This is social engineering toolkit. One of the functions in this social engineering toolkit is create a clone website. In addition, it has also a function in it. So whenever a user type in username password in this those web page post command, then this software tools, this set will record this information down to a data file. So a user can immediately know what's the username password a victim has input. But of course, this set program, it's a very large bundled, it's a very large program. It contains a lot of attacking functions in it. So in this class, in this reconnaissance, we will only introduce one function in it, which is this web cloning. Here is a tutorial on this social engineering toolkit usage. It has a lot of information. And when you run it, you can just type set toolkit. So that's a command line. Or this social engineering toolkit is pre-post in this Kali Linux this part. I think it is in this social engineering tool. Yeah, you can see this category, this 13 social engineering tool. It has 3 tools in this social engineering attack, and this social engineering toolkit is one of them. It's called SET, so you can click this to run it as well. Do you agree with the term? Yes. again, it provides this step-by-step way to help a user to use this social engineering toolkit, because it has a lot of function in it, and it doesn't bother to build a nice graphic user interface. So these tools just still use command line interface, but it builds this step-by-step menu, so it will be easier for a user to use. Okay, so we will only introduce, you can see that it has a lot of function in it. We will only introduce a small part, a very small part for this toolkit. So we select the menu, social engineer attack, we select this first one. So type 1. Then it will show the sub-menu. So you can think that this is a menu, sub-menu, sub-menu. In this way, it helps you to do. And so for social engineer attack, it has a lot of social engineer attack. For example, number 5 is the mass mailer attack. In this attack, this set toolkit will create a simple SMTP email server. Then you can create this email draft. And also supply a long list of email address. Then this mass mailer attack can send that email to all these email address. And it also have this Arduino-based attack vector, wireless access point attack vector. So there are a lot of attack here. We will only demonstrate this the second one. Yes. Yeah, I don't know why the screen does not show my laptop screen. I don't know whether it's my computer's problem or this connection problem. So actually, at the beginning of the class, it showed up. It just showed for 3-4 minutes, then it disappeared. And on my computer, my computer cannot find the second monitor. If I show display, it doesn't detect the second monitor.
Oh, it shouldn't. It should be. Has everything there?
Yeah, we choose a laptop.
It is odd.
Yeah, I try to unplug and plug.
Right. Yeah, that's always my.
It doesn't.
That's actually kind of ugly. Right there.
Yeah, the computer
is going across the laptop. It's getting lost.
Well, for this class, it's okay because both of them have computers. So we are still using Zoom meeting. So, but I think the prenuptial will have trouble as the video.
Well, I actually agree on that.
But most of my students, I ask my students to use to use Zoom. That's not going on. Maybe you can bring another laptop to try.
Yes,
Maybe my laptop problem, or maybe there's a line HDMI line problem or something.
this
It
is,
just couldn't detect another monitor.
I know, and it's not going to duplicate. Which makes me suspect where this keyboard's going right now. But, yeah, we have to actually run that down underneath there to figure out what's going on. If you're okay for now.
Yeah, I'm okay for this class.
Okay, we'll get on this right after this.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, let's come back. So remember, this is a menu, submenu, and we will only use one function in this set toolkit. Is a website attack vector. So select 2. And even for website attack vector, you can see that it has many submenu here. And here, this text basically give you help. Just introduce what does each option here means, like credential harvester method will utilize web cloning of a website that has a username and password field and harvest all the information posted to the website. So this is the one that I want to demonstrate, is which is this credential harvest attack method, which will clone a website. At the same time, if a user put in username and password, it will record it down and save it to a file. So attacker or you can check that later. So I will select option 3 for this credential harvest attack method. And here there are 3 options. We will use the site cloner. The second method, site cloner, will completely clone a website of your choosing and allow you to with the same web application. So we will use this site cloner to clone a website. Like we will choose this option 2. Now is the IP address for the post back in harvest tabbing. So the default is this one, 10.0.2.4. So that is my Kali Linux IP address. Basically, where do you want to set up this clone the website and set up this fake website? If you are real attacker, they will create and set up this fake website in another computer. They will not use it on their own computer, because remember, attacker always try to hide their trace. So attacker can specify another computer, another compromised computer as the fake website place. Here we will not change it. Just use the default. The Kali Linux will create this fake website. So just remember, this is IP address, which means if you want to send a phishing email, you should use this IP address in that phishing email's URL link. And then it says support both HTTP and HTTPS. So enter the URL to clone. For example, if we connect to like facebook.com. This is a facebook.com. It looks very simple. So let's just clone this website. Remember this is HTTPS. For the fake website, it can only be set up in HTTP format, because a fake website doesn't have valid certificate. So if the fake website using HTTPS, then any user's browser connect to the fake website, the user browser will give a warning to that particular user, saying that this website does not have valid certificate. Do you want to connect it or not? So that will raise an alert to any victim user. So or for whether a target website is HTTP or HTTPS, it will always clone the website in HTTP format. So this is Facebook we want to clone. And now you can see that because that page is very simple, so this clone takes a very short time. And so it shows this credential harvest attack. Credential harvest is running on port 80. So this fake website is running on port 80. Information will be displayed to you as it arrives. So right now, the fake website has been set up on Kali Linux. It's still running, waiting for any connection. Suppose an attack, a victim, I'm using this Windows 10 as the victim machine. Remember here, it doesn't need a victim machine to be vulnerable. Phishing email doesn't need a victim computer to be vulnerable, to have any vulnerability in it. It just needs the victim user to click that URL. So this is my Windows 10 virtual machine. And suppose a victim user has been lured to put in this kind of IP address URL link by the phishing email. Let me see what's the IP address. This fake website is on 2.2.4, which is my Kali Linux IP address, and Windows VM 2.4. So suppose a victim user is clicking this URL link, but he's not aware that this is a URL link that he's connecting. And you can see that, well, this is a Facebook login page. It looks almost the same. You can see that this is a Facebook page. This is a real Facebook page, and this is a fake Facebook page. And if you put in your login information, like suppose I just randomly put in and login. If you put in your real login username and account, you can log in to Facebook because you can see that it comes back, but right now this connection is to real Facebook. Basically, if you put in your real name, username, password, connect to the fake website will record it down, then direct your connection to the real website. If your password account is real, then you actually log into Facebook without any problem. Then the victim will not be aware that their username password has been revealed to the attacker, and they can still log into their website normally. Of course, when I tried, I didn't use my real account and password, so it will come back to the login page, ask you to log in again. And on the Kali Linux, you can see that many things happened. Remember, before I using this Windows 10 VM to connect to that, it will be displayed as the blue part. Basically, information will be displayed to you as it arrives. Then there is one connection coming from this IP address. Because my Windows 10 IP address is my Windows 10 IP address is 2.15. So in Kali Linux, it shows that there's a connection from this 2.15, and the HTTP command is a get command. Then this is a post, because for username and password, most of the websites they use this post command. When a user types in username and password, the browser will send HTTP post command and post the user typed information to the web server. So this is a post command, and it's that we got a hit, so there are some back and forth information. And here you can see that we got a, when you are finished, possible password field found. So when you are finished, hit Control-C to terminate, to generate a report. So if you don't want to shut down your web server, then you can continue to do it, to let it run. But if you want to see the report, you can like Control-C to terminate this. Let me terminate this, Control-C. Then you can see that this file, this report file, export to this one. So report file will be saved in this directory, this root.set folder report folder. And you can press continue, press return to continue, then it will return to the set toolkit. And so if I go to, remember, right now I'm in this root folder, and root folder, this .set folder is actually a hidden folder. So if you type ls.a, you can see this .set folder and report. And for every client connection, this set toolkit will generate a report. So this report is in this text file. So I can show this text file, and you can see that this login, this email and password. Email I type in this one, password. So this is password I type in. So this is a report, and files. Let me see. The files has not. Probably I can use Firefox to open this this report file. The Firefox doesn't cannot interpret XML, but anyway, this username, this user put this username and password, it has been recorded, and if there are multiple user connected, the multiple report would generate. Then every user's input information will be saved. So this is web cloning. Of course, right now I have shut down that. So if you connect again, then the site cannot be reached because I have turned off this cloned web server. So right now this connection cannot go through. Okay, so in the slide, the following the screenshot basically show the steps. So this is the first menu, select social engineer attack, then select the website attack vector, choose this credential harvest attack. Then we clone the clone entire website. Then put in this URL that you want to clone. Then whenever a user connects, the information will be displayed down, and and looks very similar to the real one. And the account, this user account and password, they are recorded in this report file. Okay, so that's the set. We only introduced a tiny function in the set. Set has a lot of functions, but we will not introduce all those functions in this class. Okay, the question for this one, for this set. Okay. Let me introduce another tool. It's called Harvester. This one actually do Google search, using search engine to collect information, but it collect information and also interpret this information, give you a report. So basic command is that this program is called as the Harvester, and then -d means which target website you want to collect information. -l means how many results you want to collect, you want to summarize. -b means which search engine you want to use. You can use a Google search engine or Yahoo or Microsoft Bing search engine. So it can be used to find out all possible websites in a targeted place, but only website. So because this one uses engine, search engine only search internet web servers. So it can only get the information about those web servers, not other online machines. So it's we can run it on a public web server, because the Harvester, it basically call Google search engine to do the search. So it doesn't send any traffic to the target website. Remember, it's just as if you are manually using Google search engine to collect information. So there's no harm for you to collect information on a real website. So let's try this. It's called the Harvester. Yeah, I want to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, the Harvester. Let me see. Oh, it used this one. Harvest. So it's capital H, the Harvester. Let's use that -d, like CS UCF.edu, the website. Again, we summarize no more than 100 results. Then -b is Google. But I think the Harvester has some problem. It doesn't find that much information, like email address. It only lists 4 email address. Hosts, it lists 5 hosts within this cis.ucf.edu domain. So any subdomain within that searched domain. And it also lists their IP address name. But clearly these hosts are not complete, because I know that department, remember the UCF machine is in this CS domain. And also our email, CS department email server is called longwood.cs.ucf.edu. It's also not here. So this search is not that complete. Let me see. CIS. Like 5-6 years ago, this EE and CS is one department. It's called CIS. Oh no, it's called ECS. ECS. So let's find this domain. So many web servers, they are still using ECS as a domain name. Okay, so ECS, I actually find a little bit more information. The use case, the default domain is ECS, not the CS. Of course, you can connect to a use case machine by connecting usage.cs as well. Our DNS server will not distinguish these two domains. But still, it's not a complete list. There are more web servers under this domain. So I will not introduce that much about the Harvester. It's good to use, but it doesn't collect complete information. Like email address, it only showed 6 email address, not that much. Okay, the one that I will introduce more is this Fierce. Fierce actually is very useful too. It can collect comprehensive information about the subnet. So this is especially useful for attacker if they want to attack a company or organization. Once they know the organization's subnet, the IP address space, subnet allocated to that company, they can use Fierce to collect the complete information about any servers in this target company. Fierce is also available in Kali Linux. It's try to find out all possible domain name under target domain. Remember here, all possible domain name. So it's still using DNS server to do this information gathering. So it doesn't send any real traffic to the target company. It just sends DNS query to DNS server. It doesn't need to be the DNS server owned by the target company. It can be any public DNS server. So it's still belonging to this reconnaissance category. Remember, when reconnaissance means you collect information without sending any traffic to the target. So this satisfies that rule. It sends query to DNS server to gather the information, and it's a possible domain name, not just the web server. It's not like the Harvester. The Harvester, the problem is that it can only collect information about web server, because it uses search engine. Search engine only collect information about web server. So that's the biggest disadvantage for this kind of tools. On the other hand, this one is all possible domain. So even the Linux server, database server, all the servers exist in a target company, you can still get it, as long as they have a domain name associated with them. Because once a computer has a domain name, this domain name will be used by DNS system. But all the information in DNS domain names, DNS servers, they are public information. So that's why it can collect the information. The straightforward way for using Fierce is this one. However, this one is not a good way to use Fierce, because it uses a very stupid way. I think it's a very stupid way. It try to guess the possible domain name and end up with this domain. For example, if you use fierce.dns ucf.edu, then it will guess apple.ucf.edu, orange.ucf.edu, nice.ucf.edu. So it will put some guessed name ahead of this target domain, then try to see whether this domain name exists or not. Basically, send DNS query to see what's the IP address for this domain. Most likely, it will get a DNS server response that there's no such domain exist. So this is a way for this direct use. And it's not a good way, because first, random guess a name usually does not work. You may not know what's the name for a computer in a company, because the company may use their own way to name their computers. Some use like a apple, orange, fruit. Some use like a planet name. Some use like a Greece myth, those well-known historic name. So there's no clear rule. So random guessing does not hit many targets. Secondly, because it's random guessing, so FIRS actually has a dictionary list. FIRS using a dictionary list that contains more than 2,000 possible names. So if you use this command, it will generate more than 2,000 DNS query. Basically, put every possible name attached to the target domain to query whether this name exists or not. So because FIRS has this more than 2,000 possible guest list, so if you run this command, it will generate more than 2,000 DNS query. So that's a lot of DNS query. It will raise alarm that why your computer generate more than 1,000 DNS query in just 10 seconds or 20 seconds. So clearly, you are sending abnormal traffic. So this is not a good way. So don't use it directly, because it will raise alarm to your computer. So if you still want to use it, just try to see how it works. We can modify this default name list to make it shorter, like only contain 10 names. Then we can see how it works. So this dictionary list is actually in this USR share FIRS hosts here. So we can, before we use that FIRS, I don't want to generate so many DNS query. So I can so it's a USR share FIRS. How to pronounce FIRS? FIERC. It's not in this. Oh, the FIRS may not be installed by default. It is installed by default. FIRS. Okay, I think it's not moving, so the lights just turned off. I want to find the host file location. Sorry, it's I think in the newer version they changed the place. Here, because by default it used more than 2,000. I don't want to try that. This one doesn't explain where this configuration file is saved. Okay. Then I cannot try it. Let me see. Where's our share here? Okay, so I use the locate command to find any folder that contains fields. Let me see. USR share. Document. Okay, fields list. This is Python. I need to find it out later because it will take some time. So anyway, I will just explain the slides. So if you can find this host file, originally this host has more than 2,000 entries. This WC means word count. -L means count how many lines. So if we count this configuration file, how many lines? It's more than 2,000 lines. So you can see this. This is a dictionary list for this field, and we can just modify this, just contain, for example, 10 or 20. Then we can run this fields command without worry about that it will generate too many DNS query. Even though this DNS query is only to your local DNS server. For example, if you run it at your home, you only generate this DNS query to your ISP, broadband provider's DNS server. They will not do anything for you, even if you send a flood of DNS query to them, but it's still not good. So before you try this, you need to modify that configuration file. I will try to find out where is that configuration file and explain it in Wednesday's class. So let me explain the good use of the fields, not using this direct way, because there's no advantage, it's only disadvantage. Too much DNS noise may not be complete because your password, like password guessing, you can find maybe 1 or 2, but not that much. So not a good scan way. On the other hand, it has a reverse DNS lookup way, which is very good for attacker to get information. I will show it how you can do that. Suppose you want to find, let me just use my PhD college as example, because they have a lot of server, UMass computer science. So first, suppose I want to find out what domain name has been declared in UMass computer science department. So first I need to find one IP address belonging to this computer science department in UMass. I can use like a dig command. Dig is DNS query. Just to find umass.edu, just to find CS, umass.edu, this web server's IP address. So this is IP address one for that web server. Now I know that it must belong to the subnet allocated to UMass computer science. And then I will just query to using reverse DNS lookup to find out within that subnet, which IP address has been assigned with a domain name. So again, I don't want to generate too many reverse DNS lookup. So I will only do the reverse lookup for a /24 subnet. /24 subnet means the subnet contains only 256 IP address. Basically, only the last decimal value will be changed. We fix this previous 3 decimal value. So we use this command. Here's #range. Basically, here range means from 0 to 255 means that I only find IP address that change in the last decimal. The first 3 decimal value will not be changed. So we will only generate at most 256 reverse DNS lookup. So that's not much DNS query. And I also specify which DNS server I want to send the query. So if you don't want to raise alarm, for example, if you do this in UCF, you don't want to send this to UCF DNS server because UCF may have very strict monitoring. So they may raise alarm. So you can send this DNS query to a public DNS server, like Google provide 2 high-speed public DNS servers that anyone can use them, which is 8888, 8844. So I specify which public DNS server I want to send this reverse DNS lookup. So even your local ISP will not know that you are doing this. They only know that you are sending DNS query to this public DNS server. So I will do this. Dash range. Let me see. Yes, dash range. And actually, you don't need 0. 0 is never allocated to any IP address. 0 is reserved. 255 is also reserved. So you can use like from 1 to 254 to, because 0 and 255 is 011, they are all not really used. Then dash, let me see, is dash DNS server. #8888. Oh, the newer version, they have changed. They have changed the command line.
There needs to be a TAC in between DNS and server.
It needs to be what?
There needs to be a TAC in between DNS and server.
Oh, okay. It's this one. Let me see. DNS. I think it's using this dash DNS server. Let me try that because it's so this command is this dash DNS server. So let me use that. And IP address range is dash range. I think in the newer version they have changed the command line dash range. Let me try this. Invalid.
That's also weird, right? It's saying it's got an invalid CIDR, which, yeah. So I wonder if it actually wants CIDR notation. So .0
Yeah,
/24.
it probably, yeah, because that screenshot is last year. So I think in this newer version, they have changed this using CIDR format. Let me try this. Invalid.
You need a .0 after your 240.
0/24. Okay, I think this one is correct. Okay, this, so from last year to this year, this new version changed this option. And IP version 4 CIDR format, it just means you need to put the first IP address, then /n, use that to represent a subnet. So this represents that we do this reverse DNS lookup within this subnet, and we send DNS query to this Google DNS server. And you can see that it do it from one. It follow this alphabet order. So it actually do this query for 1, 2, 3, 4 for every IP address, enumerate every IP address within the subnet. So that's why this is complete. This is complete information. Any IP address in this subnet, if they has been assigned to a domain name, then it will be found out. So you can see that how many domain name exist in this cs.umass.edu, and so their department, UMass use open network policy. Basically, like in a department, in a group, you can set up any computer by yourself, create a subdomain by yourself. The university does not put any restriction for that. So there are many servers here. Actually, most of these servers, they are just simply a Linux computer. So when they set up Linux computer, they can create domain name by themselves. That's not the case for UCF. If you want to create a server with a domain name, you need to go through UCF IT. So that's a lot of work there. Anyway, so here is all the domain name. Only a very small fraction of them, they are web servers. Most of them are Linux server or some other server that are used by their department. So for UCF, we can do the same thing. First, we find out these web servers IP address. But if I directly do dig, I will find IP address only the private, because dig is doing DNS query to local DNS server. Local DNS server within UCF, because I'm now in UCF campus network, it will only give you the private IP address. For attackers, they want to know what's the, so I think it's, so I need to query for no, it's what's the, let me see the command to using dig command on a specific DNS server. Dig. Oh yes, dig at DNS server, then this domain name. So I can specify which DNS server I want to do the query in order to find the, it still give me this one. It still give me the private IP address. Okay, I don't know why, but I can use IP. I can use online service to find the CS website IP address. The CS website IP address is this one. So that is the IP address. So this is a public global IP address for CS website. So suppose I only want to find the /24 subnet within this /24 subnet, this domain name. So I will just use fierce. of course, CIDR format means I need to use this one. So again, I only generate 256 DNS query. And you can see that these are all within this /24 subnet. So how many computers that have public domain, like longwood.cs. Longwood is a CS department email server. And also like my web server is also on this Longwood machine. But this subnet, but we can see that this subnet actually does not belong to CS department because like this is, for example, this is physics. So in UCF, the subnet allocation is more, how to say, more arbitrary. So because all the subnet, all the IP address allocation is managed by UCF IT. So they can allocate IP address, does not care about the smaller subnet. It's not like in UMass. UMass is like, they allocate that specific /24 subnet to CS department. So how the CS department create domain name is up to the CS department. So the UCF, the UMass IT, they don't care about that. So in their university, the subnet allocation is very organized. Like this department get a /24 subnet, another department get another /24 subnet. If your department has more computer, the university IT, they will allocate maybe 2 or 3 /24 subnet to you. So that's why in my previous query, you can see all this, all within this subnet, all the computer is within this CSUMass.edu domain. But in our query here, it could belong, like mail is a university-wide email system. It can also belong to this subnet. So it's very arbitrary. There's no internal further split of the subnet within different department. So anyway, this is very complete way for attacker to know what domain name exists. Why they care about this? Because once they find out that well, these are the server, then they have the target. Next step, they can do scanning. They can just extensively probing just these IP address. So they don't need to probe. For example, UCF has allocated with 2/2016 subnet. 1/16 subnet has 65,000 IP address. So if you don't collect this information, attacker need to scan every IP address within that 65,000 IP space. That's very inefficient and also raise alarm. But with this information, they only need to scan the IP address here because they know that this IP address is online, is associated with a real computer. So this is very useful. Again, and also it's not just about web server, it's about any server. As long as your server has a domain name, then they can know this information. Because DNS data is a public data, remember? Yes? Any server. Or we can say any computer that has allocated with a domain name. And that domain name and IP address mapping will be public information, will be saved in DNS system, and attacker can get that information because it's a public information. Yeah, unless if you want to hide a server inside your company, you can do this way, like do not create a domain name for that server. But that also means that for your employee, it's harder to connect to that server because your employee also need to type in IP address instead of server name, domain name to connect to that server. So that's also inconvenient. So in most company, for all their servers, they have a domain name. associated with all their servers. So using this way, attacker can find out all the servers in a domain, in a company. Okay. Let me copy this. Okay, so this is a current command. This is all the command. Currently, you should use this command. It's already end of class. Okay. I think I just have a few slides left, so I will quickly finish in next class. Okay. Next class, I will move on to next topic, which is about Splunk, using Splunk for incident response. Okay, that's all for today's class. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.